This podcast and any written materials related to it represent the opinions of Lisa Kays and Paula D. Atkinson, and our guests to the show and any written materials. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. It is for informational and educational purposes only, and because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship.
Hello, everyone. It is November 6th, 2024. And Lisa and I we had a whole nother thing scheduled, but it has been derailed and it has been unhinged, and we also feel derailed and unhinged. So we thought we would offer a free optional therapy session from two seasoned psychotherapists who have been through now two Trump elections, Trump being elected, and then seeing clients immediately the next day. And
We've been through, really, it's three Trump elections,
three
right?
Trump elections.
One of which was successful, and two of which now were see, I can't even say. Two of which were successful, and one of which was not.
You're exactly. And so we'd love to offer some thoughts, having lived through this. Like the majority of I was thinking about this yesterday when I was talking to you on Polo. The majority of our psychotherapy careers has been with this man orbiting us, infiltrating us, being around.
That's right, because I got into this profession in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So yep. 15 minus 9 is 4. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
I had not thought of it that way. The majority of our time
as mental health
professionals. And since licensed mental health professionals, right?
Yeah.
That's been since 2013. We had a very short. I was pregnant for a lot of that. Like, gross. I've had very little just run-of-the-mill therapy time. And really, yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that way.
I went into private practice January of 2013. So yeah, it's been very little time without this man around, or a pandemic,
or a pandemic. We have been doing weird. Yeah. And the thought I've had over and over is like, wow, they really didn't train me for this in therapy school. And now you're saying this and I'm realizing that has been like my whole career. I keep feeling like, oh, it's this weird small slice because things get distorted, as we know, psychologically.
Right.
And that has been a distortion of mine. Like, oh, isn't this a weird slice? Like, no, this has been the whole thing.
Well, it's like the memes that are like, I would love for some precedented times, please. Yeah, that'd be great. Love some good old fashioned precedented times. Whew. Yeah. So we wanted to offer some thoughts. Maybe this will be helpful. I know. Maybe this will be helpful. Maybe this won't be helpful. We hope it is. The first thing I wanted to say was, and you were just saying this before we started recording, is the piece around like processing it with our clients. And I remember this from November of 2016, talking to clients, and every client that came in was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that you have to talk about this with me. This must be so hard, blah, blah, blah. And I kept saying, and I still believe it, I'm so glad I don't have some job where I'm creating TPS reports and I have to pretend to be interested in or thinking about or trust that something is more like, sure, maybe by 2 weeks from now, I'll be like, okay, but I would like to talk about something else. But I would be far more exhausted by some job where I have to pretend that something else is important, like sales.
Like, can you imagine being in a staff meeting today? And also, well, therapists are doing this too, but being a staff, like, I think our practices, my website is such that I actually told this to someone who just wrote about, like, you know, can you see me? I'm having a lot of issues with X in my family, political. And I was like, I'm pretty sure my website currently is Trump proof. Like, no Republicans are seeking me out at this point. And so we are protected. But like, can you imagine being in a staff meeting with like mixed company and having to pretend you're fine? And that, you know, and I mean, so yeah. And being able to just be in it, and like I did wake up this morning kind of like, okay, I'm supposed to pretend again to have wisdom and pretend therapy can fix what is like, and so I had
Right.
this sort of irritation, and then once I was in it, it is like, oh, thank God. I don't
That I
have to
don't have
sit
to.
and
Right.
pretend this is not happening. We have like
Right.
the one job other than us and the political pundits have the
Right.
one job. Like the
Right.
dentists all have to be like neutral and fine, right? Because they don't know who they're dealing with.
Right.
We have
Yes.
the one job.
Or I have to like put numbers in a Excel spreadsheet today. That would be so insane. So
No.
yeah, we're very grateful. And we do, as our teacher said, and we've said on this podcast before, give a healing, get a healing. So we are processing it with you. And having done it once before, I hope we have some wisdom for you.
So, well, and we're probably going to say things that are stupid. Like, so we'll just get that out, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, as Jon Stewart, who is, I just keep watching Daily Show clips. It's part of he said this morning,
Right.
like, everything everyone says the days and
Mhm.
weeks after an election is profoundly wrong. Everything.
It's
So
all nonsense. Yeah.
we're not even going to get into the politics. We're going to make that clear
Nope.
because it's not what we do and it's going to be wrong. We don't know. I don't know.
We don't know.
But so one thing I have been thinking about and talking to people about is, and I'll tell a story that, so I have family in Missouri. My family is much of my family is deeply Republican. So I think that's where I'm all, my shock, not shocked comes from. Cause
Totally.
I went home for my dad's funeral this summer and I listened to the ads.
Yeah.
And they were very hateful. I mean,
Yeah.
hate, and I was just like, whoa. I come out of my liberal bubble. I have somewhere to go to come out of that. But
Yeah.
I've been talking to people about what we are experiencing. Part of why we were also scared and shell shocked is that this is profound. We are seeing an endorsement of profound dehumanization.
Correct.
Whether it be gay people, trans people, immigrants, Muslims, Arabs, profound dehumanization.
Yep.
And I went home this summer and my father was in the room next to me dying. He's dying. I've just landed
Yeah.
at the hospital and one of his war friends comes up to me and again, I just cannot reiterate this. My father was dying in the next room. And he said, well, where are you from? And I said, oh, I flew in from DC. He jumped back. He physically jumped back like 2 feet. Like and he then began to talk to me about how I was a swamper. I live in the swamp. How could I live in the swamp? And it was this interesting experience of like, oh, I'm the dehumanized one now. Like it's
right
happening. Now. And there have been multiple stories that I've experienced in the months since, right? I mean, we're watching gross dehumanization and, all around us.
Yeah.
That it was like, oh, now it's me. It's like my neighbor and it's me.
Yeah.
And I think that is just, and it's hard to talk about without acknowledging that like dehumanization for many people is leading to like murder, mass slaughter right now. This was just me having this weird moment where it was like, you can't even focus on the grief around my father. So anyway, when you have that level of dehumanization, I think what I'm trying to remind people of is that the only way to get humans to dehumanize other humans in that way is to get them fully and totally out of their body. They have to be numb, they have to be high, they have to be drunk. Every book you will ever read about times like these, they all require systematic dehumanization, which requires mass dissociation.
Yep.
So I have been sitting with patients that I watch gaslight themselves. Oh, I feel this, but that's probably hyperbolic. Oh, I'm feeling this, but that's probably crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm saying to them, like, what if we just took all of our feelings seriously and we just sat for a minute and we wondered, what if my fear made sense?
Yeah.
What if my anxiety made sense? What if my rage made sense? What if my wanting to stick my head in the sand and pretend this is like, what if it all we need to be in our bodies? They're all like, how do, because especially I think middle class, I'm fine, white people.
Yeah.
What I was like in 2016, what do I do? What books do I read? How do I help? I'm like, take a minute and just feel your feelings first. We
Yeah.
need to slow down and just locate ourselves.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're going to launch into the same dehumanization
Yes.
of everyone else. Like, that's what I realized. That was a mistake. It's like then, because I spent 2016, 17 very enraged and flipped into dehumanizing other people.
Them.
And I'm not saying we can't be mad at them. We can be, I'm not saying you have to go have dinner with your grandpa who hates the gays. That's not what I'm saying.
No, but if we get caught in that, in the same, that's, I mean, Ram Dass says, right? Every suffering is because you have believed your brain is a them machine. It's constantly creating them. There is no such thing as them. There is no such thing. And for us to, if we do that, right, then we are doing that. We are doing the thing that we are mad at them, quote unquote, for doing. So like we can't, and if you stay in your body, like you're saying, Lisa, if I stay in my body, I can't do that. Right. I can be sad. I can feel grief. I can be baffled. I can be all of these things. I can be scared, which is a lot of what all of this is about fear. But I can't dehumanize people. I can't make myself believe that they are less human than I am.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the system.
Yeah.
That's what I keep remembering. That's where they want us.
Exactly.
And when I start to get mad and rageful and theming other people, I remember like somebody wants me to feel this way.
Yes.
And all this is currently is just fighting over who gets to be the most powerful themer.
Exactly.
Right? If there's going to be thems, I'm going to be at the top.
Right. Right.
And that's where it all comes undone.
Yes.
And I keep saying to everybody, nobody's calling any of us on the red phone to ask us what to do about any of this.
No.
So let's have all of our conversations. And again, if you don't want to go have dinner with whoever.
No, nobody's saying
I am not one of those people.
Violate your boundaries.
Yeah.
No.
I'm not somebody that's like, we have to be friends with everybody. I don't buy that.
No.
And we can just kind of check out where we are and what we're feeling and remember where our locus of power is before we start screaming at each other.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. So my first thought last night and this morning, I think it coincides with that well. And that is what I keep saying to clients, and I've been saying to clients for months when people are like, I think he's going to win, is and maybe this is, you and I've had this conversation again. I feel like I'm very lucky to have this perspective because I was born to hippie, probably communist mother in California, but like, do not over-identify with the United States of America. The United States of America is an idea created by dead white men. I did not create it. I did not come up with it. I've always sort of thought it was kind of dumb. Our vibration on the planet is like a 13-year-old asshole bully white guy.
That's how everyone else sees us.
That's what we are. And this is just I feel as though Obama, God bless him, and Michelle, but they gave us this like, oh, maybe we're not that. Look, we can actually be, but like, you guys, this is what we are. And he is a manifestation of everything that the United States of America is. He is a manifestation. He is a mirror for all of it. I'm not saying that we have to feel shameful. I don't feel shameful about that because, again, I do not identify with the United States of America. The United States of America is a cult. It's not real. It's not even a good idea, is what my mom would say. And so to like pull back a little bit and be in my body. And in my body, I remember that I am a little, chunk of stardust. I am not over-identified with the United States of America. I have my best intentions for it. I have my best intentions for how I treat my neighbors, but I am not it. And if it needs to crumble, I know this is scary to part too, but like empires do crumble. And if this person is in power because things need to shift and things need to change, but this is the things that he stands for is the things that this country was built on: murder, dehumanization, power, greed. Like, this is what we are. And it's what we've always been. And that's not cute and it's not pretty, but it's like, I don't know, there's some sort of relief in like, oh, yep, this is what it is. This is what it always is. It's sort of like when, whenever cops are cruel and dehumanize people, it's like the system is working precisely the way it was created to work. This is the system. It's doing what it was supposed to do. It is keeping white, incompetent men in power. That's who made it, and that's who it's made for.
And I think what people are experiencing, you and I see mostly middle class, white people, is, and what I heard today, which I think is profound grief.
Yeah.
As everyone realizes, right? That's what happened in 2016 too. It's like, and it, about, oh wait, I thought it was this, and it's this. That the fantasy, what I sort of see it like the fantasy of the plantation crumbling.
Yes.
Like we all want to believe that the pretty tableware and the lovely teacups and that all the fancy dresses and that all of this can exist without harming people.
Nope.
And it's a fantasy. It's a lie. And we want to believe that like America can exist without women bearing the brunt of childcare and home, and all the labor at home and not go completely lose their minds. That's a fantasy.
Yes.
And as the fantasy crumbles layer by layer and everyone around you is in a different experience of their layer. That's what I felt today. I was working with people and I was seeing like, oh, that's my layer. I mean, I think, because that's what I really try to do is I'm like, how am I in everyone around me, including the people that voted for Trump? Well, you know what? When I was 10, 12, 15, that could have been me voting.
Totally.
Right? So to remember, like everybody's having the layers peeled back. For some people, that's going to cause very dangerous, violent, depending, on what's like.
So
for
much
some
fear.
people, it's terror. And it's some people are closer to where this will immediately impact them. I had a lot of conversations about this today.
Of course.
And some people are kind of further out and they're more worried for like my friends, my neighbors, maybe strangers. That it's and I think, but that this fantasy, and I do think that I'm trying to think of how, because I worry about even saying like that Trump himself holds all this badness.
No.
Because in this, I think what we found out in this election is that every candidate, both candidates held this, one more covertly.
Yes.
One was giving us the like, no, it's fine. It's pretty. It's, and I think that became clear to a layer of people.
Yes.
I don't think it became clear to everybody, but it's like these layers are just, and the grief. I think if people can really just get in touch with the grief around these layers coming away, because then it raises the question of, if this isn't real, if this is a fantasy,
it is.
What then?
Yeah.
And I think that is a very hard question for people with a lot of privilege and power to sit with.
Totally.
For a long time. Because
especially people who benefit from the system.
Yes. Like if we think about men in houses where the women are going, you know what? No. I'm not doing all this work.
Right.
I'm not doing, like, they're leaving the husbands. They're like fighting back. They're leaving the dishes undone, right? Those men are like real uncomfortable. Like,
of course.
Real uncomfortable. And some of them go to rage and some of them will get violent, right? That's what we're dealing with socially.
Yep.
And everyone's in a different place.
it's so easy to do the villain, good guy, bad guy thing, but like it's all and has always been the ruling class. It's all the same system. And I would feel so much better if somebody else won. I would feel so much better this morning if somebody else won. And there's a part of me that's like, but maybe it's good, because maybe we all need to recognize that this is what is created by this. The result of this system is this. And we might need to look at that.
Right. Well, it's going to peel back more layers.
Yeah.
I think more quickly, just like in 2016.
Yep.
It's like, I don't know. It's hard because my fear keeps me from going, oh, this is good.
I understand.
But it's more, I think it's like what happens when I help someone in therapy see something true, but extraordinarily painful. Like, your mother is a narcissist who is never going to be able to see you. That's not a fun experience, right?
No.
Or your husband is a patriarchal jackass who is never going to, like, and it's like, that is not the fun part of our job. But I think it's like, well, this is going to make that happen faster. It's, and
I mean, this morning, what I was thinking about is like, oh, this is the exact same feeling I have every time I have a client who has dieted their whole life. And we finally get to, oh, wait, the medical industrial complex does not care about your health. The diet industry doesn't care about your health. Nobody, all of these people who were selling you all of these things never fucking cared about your health. That it's the same vibration of like, oh, this system was never made for us. It was I mean, it really says we the people, and it really did not mean women, people of color. That, right? Like, the system was not made for us ever. And I'm so glad that we had Obama, and I'm so glad we had Biden, and I'm so glad we had these people, but like, it was never for us.
Right.
Yeah.
The pain of that is what's leading to all of this, is the pain of a system that was actually meant to support a very wealthy few.
Exactly.
Is causing profound pain.
Yes.
Across the base of all of us.
Right.
And when that happens, we know this from when we read about the Holocaust. We know this reading about Rwanda. You can literally read any book you want about genocide or the rise of fascism, and it will outline, and people will align in different ways, right? But it's the same story, is that you got too many people in pain at the price of keeping very few people profoundly comfortable. And there's a point where the tower just crumbles. The tower of cards crumbles.
Well, it's funny you said the tower, because that's what my client and I, the tower card in tarot is in the structures crumble such that we can recreate it. The star card comes after the tower card because it is hope, new beginnings. And this happens, it happens in nature. It happens in our own bodies, right? If you have something, a splinter or something beneath the surface, there's pus, there's all sorts of gross stuff. You have to get it out in order for things to heal. Right. If we look at nature, it will be okay, but we have to look at all the ugly stuff. And there's been so many things lately, the pandemic, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all of these things that are like trying to get us to fucking pay attention. And we don't want to, because there's so many things that we could pay attention to. It's not our fault. I don't want anybody to feel any shame. That is the least useful thing. There's no shame in any of this. This is all morally neutral. None of us made any of this up. We're all doing the best we can. And there's been so many things lately that has been like, we have to look at this. We can't, we built a house on an Indian burial ground, and then we're like, why is there a poltergeist? It's like, because you built the house on an Indian burial ground.
Yeah. And I think that is and I think that's where the shame is, where it's because it creates so much cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
for people, I mean, I have sat with people today
Me too.
saying, it is so hard for me to understand that things that I thought were good, things
Yeah.
that I was raised my whole life to believe
Yep.
were good, would
Yep.
keep me safe, would
Right.
keep my children safe. It's so hard to see that they don't care about me. I mean, I
They
think
don't.
that's where the white women, and it's,
Totally.
and of course, all the people of color and the immigrants and the gays are
Trans
like, oh,
people.
welcome
Yeah.
to the party. How
Yeah. First
nice
time.
for you
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
have not been experiencing suppression and fear and like, oh,
Right.
and I mean, how lovely. And it's like that speaks to, but it's like if we can keep out of,
The
because
shame.
if we blame ourselves and shame ourselves, we can't go anywhere. That's where we get stuck. Is everybody, oh, I'm so horrible. We
No.
could hold
No.
both, that
Yes.
we have all been living in a very fucked up organized, way that society is organized, which we didn't create and we didn't choose.
Exactly.
And this is the reality. And I feel like that's where I think I am trying to keep a lot of people is just, can we just assess reality?
Yeah.
It is,
Without.
yeah,
Yes.
without descending into shame and without going into grandiosity, and can we just assess what is the truth?
Know
And
them.
that is
Yeah.
going to be very painful and very necessary.
Yes. One thing that I said this morning, I'm sure you have this experience where you say something really smart and you're like, oh, that was really smart. That just came out of my mouth. So I said to a white person this morning who was like, I just feel so ashamed. Like I didn't really realize, like, how could I not know? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, for you to feel bad about your whiteness, your wealth, your blah, blah, blah is the exact same thing as fucking whoever, Chad, feeling superior because of his whiteness and his wealth. If you make yourself better or worse than anyone based on these things that are not real, then it's the same thing. So to feel shame because you are white, because you have money, because you have resources helps nobody. It is
Well,
not
and
helpful.
I think it is part of the dissociation.
Yes.
So if we look at it, I mean, I like to, if there's a kid being bullied on the playground, which
Yeah.
is what we are, what is happening. That is what we
Yep.
have been watching happening. And you go get drunk. Well, how is that? That's not helpful. That doesn't, right? You're just, well,
Right.
it's so horrible. The kid is getting bullied. I'm just going to go drink. I can't watch this. Well, okay, that's a response. It doesn't really address anything, right? The same way that just sticking your head in the sand, it's like, I can't look. I'm gonna, I'm so horrible. I'm the worst person. Well, okay, that doesn't help the kid not get bullied. And it's like,
No.
you can be there for a minute, and where else are you? Right? I've just
Right.
been trying to bring people back to like, what if you do look at the kid getting bullied? What
And
then? If you don't
feel
stick
your
your head in
healing.
the sand,
Yes.
what do you have to feel and tolerate? Because that is what we need to be able to then move into action
Yes.
that makes sense and is
Yes.
proportional, not, oh, I'm going to go get, go fix Congress. Well, that for most of us, we're not going to be very effective that way. The harder thing is usually in the school where you are locally to
Right
tell
there.
your neighbor next door, hey, that kid
Yes.
is getting bullied and you got to stop. It's the
Yes.
thing we need to do is usually the thing we're like, kind of like this podcast really, where we were like, are we going to do this? Do we want to do this? This feels very risky. It's
Right.
like the thing we really need to do is the hardest thing, because it's usually going to cost us something personal at a small level. Like,
Vulnerable.
right? And that's
And vulnerable.
where I think a lot of us need to kind of potentially be hanging out. And it actually, in the
Me
long
too.
run, will usually feel better than just
Yes.
sticking our head in the sand, telling ourselves we're a horrible person. That over the long run feels a lot worse.
Well, and exactly. Right. And that's kind of like, if you are already at that part where you want to do something, which is fine. It's fine if you're there and it's fine if you're not there. That the key is, it is to be local. It is to be good to the people around you. It is to, right. Like, I mean, I have a very strong opinion that the United States is too big. There's too many, this is too many fucking people for one person to be in charge of. It's too big. It's too vast. So like, go, like, stay stay where you are, right? Be around, go to the teacher at that school in that moment and say, this kid is being bullied. What are we doing about this? Or go tell the bully to like get the hell away from the kid, or else now you get sued. It's not the 80s anymore. You can't go just go do that. But I mean, to be in your body in the moment and feel the pain of that. And our entire culture is made to make us leave our bodies so that we don't pay attention to the outrage. Like if everybody stayed in their bodies and made eye contact with every person without a home on the street, there would be no people without homes on the street. But our entire culture is made for you to not look in their eyes and dehumanize them, and to convince yourself that they're there because they are inferior to you. And that's the only way we can continue to live in a world where there's people living on the fucking street. That's our entire system, right? Like the system was never going to protect you because the system was not made for you. So like to be in your body and to do something in the moment and do the scary thing and live in it, live in that moment, live in the pain of like, there's no reason why I have a home and this person doesn't, because that's the actual truth. There is no reason. None. And to know that that's what the society is all about, is for us to look away.
Distraction, numbing, focus on making your body smaller. And then when you're so hungry, you can look at these images on your phone and be like, oh, it's like, there's so many. And when you start to see it, it's horrible, because then you see it all the time, and that's not fun because everybody around you is dissociated. And then you can kind of talk about what that's like, right? This is just, it's like, can we just be where we are and not deny what's happening around us? Because that in the end is what hurts our brains and makes us feel cuckoo, is denying our own reality.
And then you feel like there's something wrong with you. And like this podcast will remind you, there is nothing wrong with you. And all the feelings that you're having and all of the, very painful awakenings that perhaps you're having now, that's real and it's good. I just said to a client this morning, like, please don't squash and edit that super deeply affected, sensitive, fat kid inside. I love her and we need her. Please don't squash her and go make her do TPS reports. We need her poetry. We need her tears. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Being deeply affected is the best thing you can be, but this culture will absolutely squish it out of you.
And that's actually an improv saying. I have a painting of it on my wall, right?
Oh, yeah.
The improvisational saying of be affected.
Be affected.
Is revolutionary. Yeah. It is revolutionary.
Be affected.
Another piece I wanted to say is I was thinking a lot today about intuition as like a follow-on to, because I think every person that I talked to today, I had a group and I had 5 individual people.
Wow.
All of them self-gaslighted their own intuition, and then apologized to me for it, which I don't allow.
Yep.
But it was very interesting to watch everybody's digesting all of this, and everyone is immediately sure that every instinct, and these were all protective instincts. They were either self-protective, they were protective of other people, they were based on fear, they were literally survival instincts. Like I was saying to people, if this was the Holocaust, you would be the person that survived. And everyone else, right? And they're all going, but no, I think I must be being hyperbolic. I'm crazy. Totally. And it's just like, but what if you took yourself seriously for just a minute? Like, you don't have to move right now to another country. I'm not sure that's the solution, but like, could you just for a minute take seriously what you are feeling? Because this is how people don't get murdered in alleys, is they take seriously
the gift of fear.
And this is a time when I think if we can all just really listen, like, things are topsy-turvy. We're going to be getting signals that I think we don't know about.
Yeah.
And if you read literature, I think right now would be a great time to go back to our literature of any rising fascist state and read the books that are like, not history books, but like novels about what it was like to be people in that time.
Totally.
This is what you will hear. And like, do you know who knows how to like, who's got the best instincts right now is going to be everyone who's been marginalized. Like, women are going to have better ones than men. Black people are going to have better ones than white people, right? Just go down the layer of marginalization. And like, I think we are so conditioned to being safe right? I'm supposed to be safe.
Because I live
I'm
in
in
New
a
York.
it's like we are not as safe. And
No.
and so we might all need to be just taking ourselves seriously and looking around and noticing things and being curious about why might I be having a fear instinct in this
Yeah,
moment? What data is there to support that?
totally.
Who else feels fear? What do they look like? Who
So
doesn't
many
feel
people.
fear? What do they look like? Like,
So many people.
I mean,
Well, and that's the sort of the last thing that my partner and I were just talking about like it actually feels bad but right to be in the minority in the sense of, when Obama, like 2008 was great, right? When Obama won, that was delightful. It was really fucking fun. It felt great. But also there's something about like, oh, well, I've never been one of the cool kids. I've never been like, I actually want to be with the band nerds doing improv games at lunch because that's my people. That's who I have always been. And I want to be with the weirdos in the uprising, right? I want to be with Katniss. I want to be
you
like,
want to be a Jedi.
I want to be exactly. There's every single story is right. The underdogs, and we are the good guy. Like, I don't want to be with the people who won in this way, in this country, on those morals, quote unquote, on those values, quote unquote. So like that actually I'm like, this actually feels right. This has always been my tribe. I'm not one of them. And there I go making the thems, but you know what like,
Yeah.
these are the people I want to be with.
Mm-hmm. And I think what I am also aware of, because when Obama was elected, you could not have told me nothing
Nothing.
about something being wrong with him, about him going to be a war criminal. You couldn't have told me nothing.
We
I
were
mean,
in
you
a
still, I don't think
post-racial
even last
America.
year, maybe 2 years ago, I started being like, you really could, for a long time, couldn't tell me.
Right.
And I think, but there were a lot of people saying,
Yeah.
this doesn't feel good. This doesn't, this is
Right.
like, and most people couldn't hear it, right? But they felt a very profound pain
Yep.
about what this government, and that wasn't Obama, right? Anyone who takes the helm of this government is going to inflict, that's what you were talking about, dramatic pain on other people, because that's what we
Yes.
do. That's how the system is built.
Yeah.
We're trying to say, like, he's not this panacea, and they've dressed something up and again, like, made it all look fine. We figured out a really lovely way to make ourselves feel good about things
Make
we're
white
doing.
people feel good. Yeah.
And I think now I was able to, and now, and that's why I can have, I think, more compassion for the people in the other layers,
Yeah.
because now I'm much more seeing, and I've been one of the people seeing how all of this feels yucky, right?
It's all, yeah.
And that's a different, I'm like, oh, that's not a very fun experience. Not really enjoying my walk in this layer, right?
No.
But like being able to take in this whole and kind of holding that we're anyone who is not jubilant. Okay, there are people right now that are jubilant, not those people.
Okay.
Although they have their own reasons. I mean, we could anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
anyone who's not jubilant right now is having a profound experience of pain.
Yep.
If we will let ourselves feel it, all at different layers, all at different levels. And I think that's important to just understand and to be really curious about people who are poking at. I think it would have to have somebody say to me when Obama was elected, like, oh, like, I'm kind of rain on my parade. I had a sense
Yeah.
of, well, you're raining on my parade. I think we need to be listening to the people who are trying to rain on America's parade
Yes.
around the world,
Yes.
in this country. Those are the voices that are very painful to hear. And I do think, had she won, nobody would have wanted to hear it. And I
No,
think
we
that's
would have
what you
gone
mean
right
by
into
maybe
it.
this is good, quote unquote good. Nobody
Good.
thinks this is good. This is terrifying.
I know. But
But I think there will be more readiness more quickly to hear those voices than would have been had she won. It was going to get drowned out for another 8 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And we would
exactly.
live under the delusion that we're wonderful. And
That
again,
we're the good guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not
Yeah.
fun.
It's not fun, but I know I've said on here before, and I tell my clients a lot that like a lot of the work that I do on helping people escape diet culture is things that I've learned through trainings on helping people escape cults. Again, we pledged allegiance to a flag like the United States is a death cult. I know I sound like a crazy communist, but that's all right. I'm from California. But like this is the pain of realizing that the cult leader is a cult leader, which he absolutely is. He has every single textbook, points of a person who has a cult leader. This is how it feels to be like, oh shit. Like this thing we were taught to believe in, this thing we were taught to worship, maybe isn't the answer, maybe isn't the best thing in the world, maybe we're not. And I think that's hardest for the boomers because they were born in right after World War II, and they were born into America's the best thing that ever happened. But I think us, the children of boomers too, were like, oh God, yeah, this is not cute.
Well,
And
I
that's
think,
why, like I'm saying, don't over-identify with the United States.
because I think
temporary.
you're naming like he's in charge of a cult that may be
Yeah.
within a cult.
Yes, it's not.
We all
I'm not
want to
saying,
say, "Oh, those people in the cult."
oh, right.
And is Fox News promoting? Yes,
Yes.
that is a hand. And I think you're saying, what if we're all in a cult?
Well, that's why the
what
cult.
If we're all susceptible, which we know that we all are. If you've watched any documentaries on cults, like I watch all the time, everyone is susceptible to a cult.
Absolutely.
And that we are all born into one.
Yes.
And we are certainly. I had one of my favorite.
1,000%.
I have a friend who is Palestinian American, and she, when we first were becoming friends, she was like, "You guys are so weird. Like, you put your flag on your boxers. Like, do you understand?" She was the first person that helped me see it. And I remember being like, "Well, of course we do. We love America." Like, and she was the first person that was kind of like, "But you do get like that's a little fanatical," and we were joking about it. But she's like, "Do you not see it's a little fanatical? I mean, you guys are really into your flag." And I had never looked at it that way, but like most of the world right around us,
so weird,
looks at it that way. Is like, y'all are really like, we have our flag. Again, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. It's freaking everywhere.
It's no
other country is like that. They're not like that in Benin. They're not like that. You know what I mean? It's like,
no,
it's not. And so it's like, to remember everyone is born into a cult. We're all, America is certainly one. I think every country, whatever. There's multiple. We're all in multiple cults. Drinking is a cult, like whatever. But I think to realize when we get, again, that super judgy or like them, to kind of, we can maybe be curious about putting just as much energy into what cults am I in? And let me tell you, coming out of the cults of America, I have not enjoyed. I have not enjoyed losing the pageantry of these elections and feeling like, this is, it has been losing movies, music. I mean, like this is not pleasant. No. So we can kind of hold, this is a hard thing that we are needing to do. We need to do it, but we need to look at which cults we are all in.
Yeah. As Ram Dass would say, anything you put your identity in that is outside of you, you will lose. So yes, I hope that was helpful. Again, if you feel like you need to do something. Like I just emailed somebody about working with people without homes in my neighborhood because I want to know them all by name, and I want to look. This is how I'm fighting dehumanization in my little corner of the world. I want to know these people by name. I want to say hello to them. I will not participate in dehumanization in my little corner of the world. That's how I'm fighting it. Maybe that might help you.
I love that, to think of it not like, how am I going to fight Trump or how am I going to fight the Republicans?
No.
But to ask ourselves every day, what is my sphere of influence? I'm very into the sphere of influence.
Totally.
And how can I fight dehumanization in my sphere of influence? And I guarantee you, if you take that on, it's going to be more work than you ever would have. You're going to have enough to do. It's going to be hard. And it may take you 6 months to sit in your feelings and figure out what even that is.
Totally.
But
it might be good. And also maybe, and the other thing I told my people around me, I will not over the next 4 years hear all about what the evil Republicans are doing. You will not be sharing that with me. If you want to listen to NPR and you want to, great. I love all those things. I will not be a receptacle for your spewing about how evil they are. That's not what, I will not be doing that. I would not, that is not my role in your life. You can go spew that with each other, but no, thank you. No, thank you.
And we can all do that in whatever way we need to. We can participate and not. And I think letting ourselves really think about, because I did that. And I think about that. I did that in 2016. I was always, I had CNN on in the car. I felt like I needed to always be on Twitter. And now I'm like, what was that doing? I have no, what was I going to do if he tweeted something?
What were you doing?
I had the same. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. I don't need to do that hyper vigilant. That was not productive. Again, I think I needed to go through that. And now I'm going to do a different thing and figure out what's going to be productive. I love the lens of fighting dehumanization.
I think, and that is dehumanization, like them, you know, the them. I'm not, yeah.
And I wonder if I could just, I thought of that. I said this to somebody today because they were grieving the loss of all these things they'd always taken for granted. Of course, aren't we all? Like, that's what this is. And I said, I wonder if you can replace those with things that you know you can take for granted, kind of like you did just now in your life. Like, I know that I can take for granted that no matter what happens around me, I will not dehumanize someone else, right? That, like, we can build our own layers of confidence and grounding. As everything is getting really chaotic around us, by saying, this is what I know I will and will not accept. This is what I will and will not do.
Totally.
And those are going to be different for everyone. But I think that might be a grounding place to hang out so that we don't feel like everything is out of control and chaotic.
Yes. Stay in your neighborhood. Well, we hope that was helpful. If you have thoughts and feelings about all of it and you would like to share with us, we always want to hear. And you can find us on Instagram. I'm Paula D. Atkinson. Lisa is the Lisa K's. You can find us on YouTube. You can, I don't do the X tweet thing. But yeah. Oh, and then Lisa's all over the TikTok. You can get on.
And we have a TikTok page for the podcast that Nameka has made with shorts that are adorable.
Amazing.
WIN, what if not WINWWU?
The letter U. Yeah, not YOU, the letter U. Yes. Yeah. And then we have an Instagram too, WINWWU, the letter U. So please, and you know, as always, give us a iTunes review, etc. We are with you and we are holding you in our hearts, all the band nerds and weirdos and deeply affected fat kids. We love all of you. And we're with you. And we are safe. We are safe. We are infinitely safe.
Stay in your body.
Yeah, stay in your body. Bye, guys.